In this video of Docker series, we are going to talk about Docker network. Docker network is like a channel which is used to communicate between two containers which is running on the same host, or the Docker container which is running on the remote host. So whenever you create any container, so the container will attach to a default network that is created by the Docker, and there will be one IP address which is assigned to that particular container. So let's see how it looks like. So here I'm going to create one container. So let's say Docker container run -d -p, and it is running on port 801. I'm going to give the name web server. And it is a Nginx. So when I hit this command, one container is going to create. So here I'm going to inspect the container. So Docker container inspect, I'm saying it's a web server. So when I hit this command, so you can see here there is a network here. In this network there is a bridge. So the bridge is the network for like it's created by the Docker. So in this bridge network we have IP address which is 172.170.0.2. So this is the IP address which is assigned to this particular container. Now let's see the network commands. So when I say Docker network ls, so this command will give all the networks in Docker. So here you can see the network list. So the first one is which is the bridge network. The driver is bridge, and there is another one which is Docker. This is the custom one that I created. The another one which is the host. So the host is the another kind of network, and there is a called none. So let's talk about these three networks one by one. So the bridge network, which is the default network which is created by the Docker, and the bridge network is like it gives a proper isolations between the container and the host. And the another kind of network which is the host, which will not give that kind of isolation between the host and the container. So it will give a good performance on network, but it will compromise your security and isolation. The third one which is the none. So none is like a totally isolated container which doesn't communicate with any outside network which is the host. Let's talk about Docker network through a diagram. So let's say I created one container, and which is like Nginx, which is running on port 80 on this container, and I'm going to do a port mapping of port 82 on like 801 on the host. So it's going to communicate with this bridge network. So bridge network is like created by this Docker. We can also say like Docker 0 network. Now this bridge network is going to talk with this host network interface of this particular host, and the Nginx which is running on this particular container on port 80 is going to listen on this port 801 on host machine. Now let's say if I'm going to create another container which is running on port 802. So now this 802 which is going to listen on this particular host machine, but the Nginx which is running on this particular container is going to listen to this port 80. But on the host it is going to listen port 802. So this is how the Docker network is going to work. So let's start with creating our own network. So the command for that, which is Docker network create, and here I'm going to give the network name, which is like my net. So here I created one custom network. If I hit the command Docker network ls, so you can see here my net. So here I created one custom network which is the bridge network by default. So Now I'm going to create one container and I'm going to attach that container to this particular network. So let's create one more container. So Docker container, okay, run -d -p 8003 OTT and the name of this server, like web server. I'm going to say like web server 3, okay, and nginx. Now I'm going to add one more line over here, the command over here, which is network, and I'm going to say my net. So here I'm going to attach this container to this particular network. Okay, if I hit this command, okay, there is one container created. So let's see Docker container ls. So you can see here the web server 3 which is created, and if we inspect Docker network ls, so here the mynet. Okay, so I'm going to say Docker network inspect my net. If I run this command, okay, so here you can see there is a container which is attached to this network, and here the name of that container is which is web server 3, right? And the IP address for that is this. Now let's create one more container. Okay, so I'm going to say web server 4. Okay, and which is going to be run on this particular port. Okay, now if I run this command, okay, if I say inspect mynet, you can see the web server 4 which is attached to this network. So here you can see two containers, web server 3 and web server 4. So here the IP address will become different. So IP address for this container is this, and for this container is this. Now let's do a communication between these two containers, web server 3 and web server 4. So I'm going to say Docker container execute -it and web server 3. Okay, and I'm going to ping this from web server 3 to web server 4. Okay, so here saying the ping executable file not found in path. So we have to install the ping in web server 3. So I'm going to say container execute -it web server 3 with the bash command. Okay, so now I'm inside this particular container, and get update. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to install the ping. Okay, so I'm going to say apt get install IP utils ping. Okay, let's exit from this and let's run that same command. Okay, so here I'm going to ping from web server 3 to web server 4. So here you can see the communication is started. So the ping which is happening from web server 3 to web server 4. So let's stop this. Okay, stop this. So in this way we can communicate between two containers using network. let's see other commands of network. So if I say docker network and if I say help, so here it's going to give me the commands which we can use for this network. So one is like create, that we seen. Okay, one is like connect, disconnect, inspect, we already seen, ls, then run and remove. Let's see the connect command. For example, if I create one container, okay, so docker container and run -b name, saying like my server and which is nginx. So if I run this command, okay, it's going to create one container. Okay, now if I want to attach a network which I created, the custom network, to this container, then I can use the docker network. Okay, docker network. Now I'm going to say the network name and the container name which I want to attach. So it's the my server. Okay, so it's like, oh sorry, so I'm to say connect network connect. So here if I inspect this mynet, so docker network, if I say inspect mynet, so here you can see the my server which is connected to this particular network. Okay, now if I want to remove this network, then first you have to stop that particular container. So here we have 3 containers which is attached to this particular network. So we have to first stop this container. So container stop, I'm going to say web server, then 4, then 3. Okay, so it is going to stop this container. Now if I'm saying docker network remove mynet, so it's going to remove your network. If I say docker network ls, so you can see here that mynet is removed from the network. So this is about docker network. I hope you like this video. Let's see you on another video.